Well, welcome back. This is our last session today with our experts answering your gardening questions. So we've got a few questions and then we're going to do the exciting bit and have a look at some plants. So this is a question, I'm not sure who wants this one. This is from Desmond Green. It's about a rock garden. He's looking for suggestions for south-facing garden. It's full sun and sloping with clay over chalk. I'm looking for good-sized herbaceous plants with plenty of colour, ranging from blues to pinks. Any suggestions, please? Desmond. So it's clay over chalk, full sun, sloping. Any
free draining, in other words.
Basically, yeah. And we want blues
and
to pinks.
Well, you can't go far wrong with hardy geraniums, can you? I mean, there's such a selection that will grow anywhere. You've got the fantastic geranium Roseanne, which will grow in those conditions. You've got geranium sanguineum striatum. That's also excellent. And then if you want something slightly different than that, then there are a couple of lovely pulmoniums, the smaller ones. There's reptans, and there's also Lambrook mauve. Those will both go really nicely in those conditions. If you keep to those colours, it's going to be a little bit flat. So they do need to either add in a little bit of white or a little bit of cream stroke yellow, because otherwise with just pink and blue, you can get quite a flat looking area. But certainly those would do very well. And something white, go for an Iberis. There are some beautiful named varieties of Iberis out there. So those would be my suggestions anyway for those sorts of areas.
Okay, anybody else got anything they want to add to that?
You could have, Peony tenuifolia, rubra plana. That doesn't get too big. That's quite compact, and that grows on the mountainside. So that's quite good in that situation. It has a gorgeous double red, velvety red flower that's really highly scented and very fine feathery leaves, unlike any other kind of peony. So that doesn't get too big. So that might work very well. Okay, thanks, Alec. Vicky?
You could put a small heuchera. We've got some little cutie series. There's like one called Cocoa. That would go on the slope. With it being on the slope, the water well draining, that would be lovely. And it would complement some of the plants that Rosie and Alec recommended.
Okay, so a few suggestions there for you, Desmond. Good luck with that. Right, while we've got you, Vicky, there's one here from Janet Avery. My heuchera lipstick was doing okay, but the leaves started to go brown on the edges and now they all feel a bit limp. It's watered enough and is planted in the ground in a shady spot, not a pot. Any suggestions why this might have happened?
Well, if the leaves have gone a bit limp, that's a bit suspicious. I would give it a little, she's either it's either too wet, it could be one of the problems. She could have vine weevil in it, so she needs to give it a little tug and see if the top comes off. If the top comes off and the vine weevil are there, she can, and they're little grubs that eat the roots. She could actually clean the whole thing up and save it. Sometimes you end up with a lot more plants. One lady said they were her friend because they gave her lots. I'm not sure they are really, but heucheras don't disappear so much with vine weevil as other plants can, because you can save them by cleaning them up and doing. But it sounds to me a bit like that. If the leaves were just crispy, I'd say it's had too much sun. But when she says it's gone limp, that seems a little bit more suspicious, like it's either rotten or vine weevil are on it. And now is the time to look for your vine weevil. Also, in that video, I do mention them and I do help them to show them a good way to get rid of them and feed the birds at the same time.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
Something to look on there again.
If I find any in pots when I'm repotting things, I chuck them to the hens. My hens love vine weevil. It's a bit like giving them caviar, I think, so they love it. Right, the final question, and then we'll have a look at some of your plants that you've been and got from the nurseries. This is from Sharon. Fruit trees or not is the question. I have a board of clay soil in a north-facing garden and it's against a wooden fence. The border gets early sun and is in shade by midday. I'd originally hoped to grow fruit trees against this fence, but I don't know that it would get enough sun. Is that the case? And if so, what would you grow on this instead? So Sharon was hoping to grow some fruit. I mean, the only fruit I would suggest on there, I've got a very similar situation. I've got a garage wall that goes into my veg garden, and it's north facing, so it gets no sun. It gets a little bit late afternoon as the sun goes around further. And I grow a Morello cherry on there, and I fan trained it out on the gable end of the garage, and it's in full blossom now, beautiful white blossom. Morello cherry isn't one of the sweet cherries. It's good for bottling and making jams from, but it doesn't need a lot of sun, and we get a huge crop on there as long as you can keep the birds off. So from a fruit point of view, I would suggest a Morello cherry and fan train it. But any other ornamental plants anybody would like to suggest to go on that north facing fence, just to give a bit of colour?
It's more of a fruit thing, but raspberries. I would never have thought raspberries could grow on a north facing fence, but we've done exactly that. We get raspberries into November or whenever the frosts kind of do their worst. Yeah.
So and they're the autumn ones presumably, so just easy to cut them down in the spring and away you go. And I think, you know, you'd be fine with gooseberries as well, to be fair, north facing.
I think some of the blackberries would do quite well, the thornless blackberries with those beautiful foliage, the cut-leafed ones, or even tayberries. None of those need a huge amount of light. They'll grow on quite poor soils and quite shady.
Okay, so there you go, Sharon. We're not going to give you any ornamental plants. You've got more than enough fruit to fill that fence, and you can stock your freezer up. Right, okay, so I've asked you all yesterday if you could bring a little plant in. So, Lynn, what are you going to show us?
Well, I've got, like I just showed, a falling star. Now, this one, I've had it on the windowsill for a couple of weeks now, and it's just getting to the point where you have to start taking the flowers off. So, as they're going over, I take the few off at the top, and then you take the whole stem, and that just keeps the plant reflowering all the time.
And how long will that flower for? How long can you keep it going through the season?
That should flower for about 10 months a year. So keep it in a nice bright situation, sort of east or west windowsill is going to catch the early morning or evening sunlight, and feeding a high potash feed. This got repotted about 3 weeks ago, so I won't start feeding straight away. Wait till it's used the nutrients out of the compost, and then start feeding. A good sign is seeing roots come out the drainage holes at the bottom of the pot, then start feeding, which is about 6 to 8 weeks after it's been repotted.
That's great. Thank you, Lynn. Alec, I can see you've got a peony there over your shoulder.
Got a tree peony here.
Yeah.
And I have an intersectional peony here, which is what I ran in to get. Can you see it's quite a juvenile flower. This plant's only about 6 years old. But this is morning lilac, which is a gorgeous intersectional peony. Flowers in May, for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Has lots of flowers on it. It has this, I don't know if you can see here, this nice strong tree peony framework. It dies down completely in the winter, so you treat it just the same as a herbaceous. But because it's got the tree peony frame, you don't need to use a support or anything. Generally, it'll hold its own flowers. So, yeah, that's the one I've got there. They're great.
Okay, that's great.
Wonderful autumn colour on the foliage too.
Right, so added bonus there. Thank you. Yeah. Mark, what have you got for us?
Well, it's easier for me to take the computer to the plant. So
that means it's a big plant.
You can just about see it. Yeah, it's one of the delphs that would have been going to Chelsea. It might be a bit too soon. A bit like me, it's peaked too soon. And then I thought, as a more hands-on plant, you mentioned about taking cuttings yesterday. So I thought a little tiny demo. The idea is that you cut off one of the stems, sort of certainly not too much bigger than this if you can avoid it. The idea is you go in there with a knife, which can be a bit risky because you can end up cutting roots. I tend to go with my fingers and there.
Oh, right. Cutting. And that's the little basal bit that you need that has to come away from the root.
Exactly. And then just like this, putting leaves all over my computer, and then stand that into some perlite with a saucer of water. And at this time of year, 3 or 4 weeks, you'll have enough roots to pot it up.
Great. Well done. Thank you very much. Rosie, I can see them all around you. It's like you're in the middle of a herbaceous border.
It is, yeah. I decided I'd just get 2 plants because just for good view. This is GM Scarlet Tempest. Now, this is grown outside in flower since the end of March, and it will carry on flowering right the way through until September. So it's a really good value plant. And what a lot of people want to know is how to deadhead. So obviously you get the odd dead flower like this. No point in just taking those off. This thing will flower through that stem. And then at the end of this, it is finished, you take it right off into the base here. So
Yeah.
that's where you would take it off. And it's really great plant. So that's a really good one. And just quickly, this one, because I'm on a one-woman mission to get everybody to put more yellow in their garden. And this is one of the new Rococo ranunculus, and this one is just called yellow, which is a real shame because it's rather beautiful. It's got lovely red brown stripes on it as well. Compact plant, totally hardy, so it's not like the ones that were grown for cut flower. This one can go out in the border and it will last through, and they bulk up and make really big plants. This was only potted in September, and it's in a 3-litre pot, so it's doing really, really well. Fantastic thing. There you go.
Lovely. Thank you, Rosie. Vicky, what have you got for us?
I've got a hooker, surprisingly.
Surprise, surprise.
I don't think you can see it very well now. I've got the sun out, but I've blocked the sun out. Hang on, there you go. Okay, so this one's hooker violet shimmer. I don't know whether you can see that. It's got some gorgeous markings on the leaves. And at this time of the year, it's quite sort of purpley. And then it's going to go silver as the summer goes on. They go quite silvery. It gets gorgeous flowers on it, lots of flowers. It flowers all summer, and they're sort of white with a pink flush on dark purple stems. If you want to keep it flowering, what you need to do is, a lot of people just chop them off here. What you need to do is just go all the way down to the bottom of the stem here and just give it a little bit. I can't do this one because obviously I want to keep it on really, but well, I can, but I think it won't, they don't come off very easy until they need to come off.
Yeah.
So you just give it a little twist at the bottom there and it just comes off. But it's a beautiful variety, and this one's named after Richard's mum. So violet shimmer.
Lovely.
And they're gorgeous. And this is actually a sale plant, this one. So
Yeah, that's a beautiful
yeah.
plant. Thank you, Vicky. And finally, last but by no means last, we've got Matt there, who I'm sure has got something interesting to show us.
Well, I would have shown you a Sarracenia, but if you've never grown carnivorous plants before, this is one you should try. They're absolutely fascinating. They're easy to grow, quite beautiful. It's Drosera capensis. They're excellent for keeping whitefly down in an unheated or frost-free greenhouse. They can move, so really good for children to look at under a microscope or with a magnifying glass. They flower very freely. The flowers close at night, self-pollinating, so you can collect the seed and grow them yourself quite easily. No, I shouldn't really say that, but we sell these ourselves on the nursery, and they make up part of our beginners collection. They're very, very popular. This is probably the easiest and best carnivorous plant, if you've never grown them, to have a go at. So highly recommended.
And as you said earlier, totally hardy, so it's one that, you know, doesn't need to be indoors.
Now
So,
have
yeah.
they down the winter and come back up spring and
Great. And I didn't want to be left out, so I've put one in myself. This is an indoor house plant. This is a Peperomia caparata, and normally they have green leaves. You've got these lovely little heart-shaped leaves, and then you get these flower spikes at this time of the year. This is a lovely deep red. It's almost like a plum red leaf called Shumi Red, and they make lovely house plants. This is in about a 5-inch pot in there. You can take leaf cuttings from them, or you can take little sort of divisions off them. This one grows in my office. It's north-facing windowsill, so it doesn't need masses of light. So it's a lovely plant for the house. It's easy to look after and doesn't get too big. And that's it, I'm afraid. That's all we've got time for. So thank you very much for listening to us on the Virtual Flower Show. Thank you to the assembled group of nurserymen and specialist growers that we've got with us. Miss seeing you all, because I'd be seeing quite a few of you at Harrogate today. It would be the last day at Harrogate. So miss seeing you, and I shall miss seeing you at Malvern and all the shows. So please, everybody out there, support our nurseries. They're all selling online. You can buy their fantastic plants just as before. You just do it through their websites and they will be delivered to your door. So we need to keep our nurseries going so that we're there ready for the shows when they reopen again. And there are things happening through the rest of the afternoon on the Virtual Flower Show. So please visit the Facebook page, or you can go to the Dibley's Facebook page, and that will then take you to it as well. So lots of demonstrations, things happening through the day. So thank you very much. Stay safe, keep gardening, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.